by apparently how many anti-Semitic bigots were just like in the shadows waiting for an opportunity to jump out.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
The open anti-Semitism online is so shocking. And people chanting in the streets, "Death to the Jews!" Like what?
Yeah, from a variety of quarters.
Yeah,
in 2023. Yeah, and you know, I guess it's naive to think that maybe we didn't have that problem anymore, but
Jewish people have always been saying it, and a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, you guys are exaggerating."
Yeah,
and now I guess everybody has to shut the fuck up about that. It's like it's not. Not only were they not exaggerating, they were kind of underplaying it.
Yeah, I think they were definitely underplaying it, but I think that if you look at if you look at what's happening here in America, right, there's layers to it, right? You get what's her name, Rashida Tlaib, the Palestinian American in Congress, and she's a member of whatever they call it, the Squad, and so she comes out and she's not, she's fairly rabid, right? Meaning what she's saying about it is not particularly eloquent, right? And so she gets censured because she's just like out there spouting almost what appears to be pro-Hamas or making some sort of equivalency, right? Saying,
she tweeted the incorrect story.
Yes.
About the bombing of the hospital being the responsibility of Israel, and it wasn't.
That's actually that's a great point, because the attacks took place 7 October. And then a few days after, there was that explosion at the hospital. And not only Rashida Tlaib, but
the New York Times,
major news outlets took the word of Hamas, the group that had just days before conducted this awful slaughter, right? They took their word and said, "Oh yeah, it was an Israeli airstrike targeting a hospital."
Yeah.
And they went with it.
Yeah.
And you think, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Not only that, it hit the parking lot. It didn't even hit the hospital.
Yeah.
And there wasn't 500 people dead.
No, there was no journalistic curiosity. There was no, thought that said, well, maybe before we run with the word of a terrorist organization that just proved how medieval they are, maybe we should do our own independent checking. But I mean, I get it. In today's world, everybody wants to beat the clock and be the first with a story.
But how do you do that when you're the New York Times?
Apparently,
it's not difficult. You're a congresswoman.
Yeah. So she comes out, and I guess the point is she's one layer of this, right? Of this sort of anti-Semitism, and she's trying to couch it in, I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm drawing some sort of moral equivalency between Hamas and Israel. And I get it. It's a massively complicated history, right? There's nothing more complicated than the history of Palestine and Israel and the settlements and all the rest of it, and no one's probably ever going to solve it. But then you've got the campus activity, and again, those are youthful people that like to feel righteous about things. You got Barack Obama, right, going on a podcast talking about this.
Whose podcast did he go on?
What was that called? Pod Save America. But on that, he basically attempted to. Well, he didn't attempt. He did. But in a very subtle, very sophisticated way, more sophisticated than others who get out there and scream from the river to the sea, he talked about this like, okay, well, it was an unbearable situation for the Palestinians, which implies that, it's kind of not he's not justifying it, I guess, in a sense, but people will read that into it, right?
Yeah.
And that's dangerous in itself, right? Because, well, he's listened to, right? And he's beloved. I guess I could use the word beloved. Anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is there's layers of this anti-Semitism, or there's layers of this excusing what took place while not, I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but that's what they're doing, right? And by calling for a ceasefire, as an example, if you call for a ceasefire, right, then you're basically saying, I'm okay with the status quo. Because a ceasefire is not going to lead to a two-state solution. It's not going to lead to, stability. It's going to lead to more violence, more terrorism, right? And the only people that win in a situation like that would be Hamas and the Iranian regime. So, I think it's, again, it's the most complicated issue of our time and for generations.